Hello, welcome to The Verdict, where John O'Connell and I have the pleasure of looking back at a brilliant 4 days on the Knavesmire for the Welcome to Yorkshire Ebor Festival, and also casting our eye towards some pretty smart juveniles over in Ireland and a good race at Goodwood as well. We're starting with a bit of class, John, because we're going to get straight back and look at the Wednesday action. I thought each day at York was pinpointed by a brilliant race or two, and that's what we're going to get stuck into.
Absolutely, so we'll go straight away with the International.
With the Juddmonte International, which, as we roll it along out the gates, we'll let it unfold. I mean, what were your expectations, John, coming into this contest?
I was hoping to see a cracking race, which we got.
We did.
Interested to see where the pace was going to come from. Wasn't necessarily thinking it was going to come from the horse it did.
Well, because do you think their hand was forced to some extent?
Possibly. You don't often see a winner of St James's Palace going back up in trip and going from the front.
But it seemed to suit so well, didn't it? And at Goodwood, Circus Maximus was I think, just beaten by a quicker horse, wasn't it, in Sussex?
But it perfectly played into the hands of Coolmore here, because in second place he's managed to cross over in front of Crystal Ocean. In third place there is Elakam. Behind that, a little bit further back, we've got King of Comedy, who was a little bit keen going up in trip. Considering how keen he was in the early stages, I thought he did well to finish where he eventually did. One of the interesting parts, Tom, of this race is going to come in a couple of furlongs' time, because remember last year they came near side and it threw some jockeys away a little bit with their tactics. Normally at York, 99 times out of 100 these days, they head straight to the centre of the course. This is like an international of years gone by. They've stayed over to the far side, and I think that has not confused, but thrown tactics for a few jockeys in behind. In particular, Jim Crowley, who was in the perfect position on Elakam coming in. But once he's done that, he's now short of room most of the straights after that. So he's a little bit hemmed in, first of all, by Japan, who now moves up onto the heels of the leaders. And Jim Crowley can never really quite get the run he wants in Elakam.
This was the horse Elakam. They're now talking of a mile and a half possibly suiting, which Mark Johnson admitted a couple of years ago they may not have thought possible for this horse, but he is a son of Frankel and he does seem to stay. Well, I think that's highlighted by this bit here, where you don't necessarily think he's going forward at this stage, but goodness me, as the horses come up on his outside, Regal Reality and King of Comedy, he finds plenty, doesn't he? Yeah,
he's only beaten just over length by the winner. Japan and Crystal Ocean have got in their battle from a couple of furlongs though, and Japan has just stayed on, and Crystal Ocean perhaps had to get rolling a little bit earlier in the straight than ideal, but in a fascinating contest.
I'll tell you what, this is a good point to just highlight. We've got one just hidden in there, then we've got the second place horse, and we've got the third place horse here. And actually it's in a race where behind these, not a great deal eventually, well, they start to threaten late on, but there was a point where the race just quickened and they just got left a little bit and they had to play catch up.
They did. At this stage, James Doyle, rather, on Crystal Ocean, has made his move. Ryan's got him covered on Japan. Frankie Dettori trying to get involved in King of Comedy, who has done well considering he was keen early on. Just getting to the picture there in the blue and white silks is Elakam and Jim Crowley, who I just don't think ever really got a chance to throw down the challenge that Jim was hoping to do. Crystal Ocean, we know how tough the horse is. He's battling away, but in the final 50 yards, Japan just has his measure. Great call by the connections of Japan. Most people would have thought possibly go for the Great Voltager or something else. But no, they'll come down and trip and got the due rewards. Is
this horse a live threat in the Arc, depending on whether he goes Irish champion or not next? Is he a live threat to enable in your mind in the Arc?
He's a danger, yeah. I'd fancy Enable over him, but he's got to be a danger. He's got to be a big runner for the first three.
And I get the impression you're quite taken with the run of Elakam if he went up to a mile and a half.
Absolutely. If you didn't know the horses involved there and their trips from previous runs, you were looking at that now. You'd think Elakam is ready-made for a trip up to a mile and a half. And I'll be fascinated to see where they go next. And I don't know what sort of plans they've got for the horse, but if they're going to go a mile and a half, they may as well go for the big one, I think. It's probably unlikely to happen, but I'd like to see him go for the Arc.